All right, welcome back to another episode of Bri the Builder, and I am still working on the Acastus Knight Asterius. So I have the framing, I think, finished for around the cockpit opening, and the door seems to fit quite well. Now, I did realize, though, that I'm off. So this side, and I didn't notice, this side here is much, much longer than this side. This side's actually correct. I'm not sure how this side got off, but really, so here, doesn't matter for a second. The pilot on the inside is actually sitting in a good spot. I can't pick this up and quite show you exactly how he's sitting in there, just because he's not actually attached to anything. But I have him sitting in a spot where the front edge of the cockpit's actually really close to the front edge of the carapace. The carapace is sitting on the frame, so it's where it's supposed to be. And so the cockpit's actually, the pilot and the cockpit are sitting in there in a really good spot. So if I take this off to actually do a little more work on it, you can see he's just kind of propped up on a couple pieces of paper toweling right now, but I can see he's at a good height, and I'll be able to kind of start to get an idea of how to create a simple structure to keep him in place and still give me room underneath to deal with the LEDs and everything else. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to make a way that's going to make it really easy to kind of set him in later after other stuff is finished. So anyway, he is actually in a really good place. The framing is looking really good. So if you can see here, the inner frame. Did we get it to focus? There it goes. The inner frame ended up actually working out really nicely, but I couldn't use the plastic strip, the rod. It just didn't want to stay bent into place on that inner curve. So I ended up doing it with 2-part epoxy, and then just kind of sanding and sculpting it down after the fact. And I got a nice, thin, consistent edge. I think it looks really nice. So the issue with the off size there, unfortunately, without the door on, you might notice it. Once the door is actually sitting in place, because it's going to sit down in that opening, and then have a little bit of structure. I'll get my hand out of the way here. It'll sit right in there. Then have a little bit of structure that ends up going under. So once that's all there, I'm pretty sure there's no way you could actually tell that it's off. Well, I mean, you still could, but you'd have to really look for it at that point. So that should end up working out just fine. All right, now, the next thing I want to do to the carapace here is actually cut off the light lenses here, and on the eye of the skull, so that I can backlight those. This one, I believe that once I kind of get that opened up and figure out where that's going to be on the inside, I'll be able to hollow out the inside of this and just put a strong LED just on the inside of this to light all 3 of those. This one, I, again, believe I'm going to be close enough, let's get that out of the way, to where the carapace is going to be touching, it's going to be really down about there. All right, so that's going to go through and actually be open here. But once the skull and everything else is in there, I really, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. I should have room. All right, I really, really want to light inside that skull. So I'm going to find a way. Even if what I end up possibly doing is if I can't get all the way through, I can essentially open that up and put just a small LED mounted right on the back, covered up with some plasticine so that it's completely light proof, and then it would just shine through the front. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. And if I have to, I'll do it for that one as well. Should definitely have room then to run a wire through this piece here to get back to the battery or to the USB cable. So that'll work out no matter what. I'll light that. Now, what I'm not going to be able to do, and what I had wanted to do as well, is open up all of these vents and actually backlight those. I really wanted to open up these exhausts, but these are just solid chunks of resin. So without the ability at this point to be able to kind of 3D print replacement parts for all of this that are hollow and could be internally lit, that's just too much. So, without that being lit, that'll be all right. As long as I can light these pieces that are going to be pointing forward on the carapace, that'll still look really cool. All right, so let's get to it. Oh, that's a bummer. All right, well, that's broken off on the inside, and it didn't come through. So that definitely causes a problem. All right, well, let's step up to, well, let's do the other small side first. And this one should still be plenty small. I'm hopeful that as I get through with all, well, the next two anyway. Not through. That's pretty thick, actually. Let's start with this one. That I will eventually kind of hollow it out to the point where I locate that chunk of drill bit and can remove it. At least that's my hope. No matter what, I'll find a way. It's unfortunate, though. It's a good-sized bit. Well, that's still not all the way, but that's kind of a big jump. Even too big of a jump. All right, let's go to the biggest size little bit I've had. All right, that's just too hard for my fingers. All right, well, this one's going to be harder to do. Well, that's unexpected. It's a lot more shallow than I thought I was. So it came out right there, which actually isn't really a bad spot, but not where I want it. So we're going to shoot that again. Try to go at a much steeper angle. Well, it isn't quite doing it. It wants to follow that path. So now, not too big of a deal. We're going to go in from the bottom. So we're going to take some measurements. And then we'll grind away a little from the bottom with kind of a big fat drill bit. Once I know exactly where to go. So let's go from our opening here. We've got, well, let's go from the center of this. 15 millimeters should be really good. All right, so I'm going to go if I can actually manage to hold on to everything. About 15 millimeters right there. All right, now, about how far from the edge? From the edge to the middle, be about 35 to 40, right between 37-ish, right? So if that's 37 to 40 right in there, there's my other mark. Right around here. Ought to be really close. Now let's see. That feels right. All right, so I'm gonna try with a little bit bigger bit. Just drill out right in front of that. And just give myself a gap that I can kind of mount an LED into. Hopefully. All right, nice and gentle. Check. It feels like it's good, but it's a little in. So we're going to go that way a little. And I'm definitely meeting up with the hole. So let's see. All right, I think probably done with that. And let's get that out of the way. Now, as I open this up, I also want to remember I have a drill bit stuck on that side. So I have two different openings, well, three really, that I'm opening this for. In a spot like this where I cut through a little bit, that's not going to matter at all. A little bit of putty in there and you'll never see that. So, the line was good though. Right on the center. Now I can also check a little bit here and see. Yep. That is that hole. So that one would be clear to light. The other two, not so much. So I'm really more or less now just going to try to work the opening sideways to get to the other openings. So this will end up being a big oval. Yeah, need something to kind of dig. I'm getting there. All right, now where does this one go through? I'm committed up to that one. Got to be getting close to it, though. That might be it. There it is. All right, now at this point, I want to be careful. I don't really go past the opening too much. All right, now let's see. That actually ought to work pretty well. I'll be able to insert a small piece of fiber optic cable from the front, essentially a light pipe. All right, and then with the LED back here, they should pick that up. Now I'm starting to see right there that other drill bit. So now I just need to try to hollow this out around it. Ooh, inside of the curve does not make it easy to work on. think that's the end. There. Not that wasn't kind of a giant pain, but it's out. Right, now I can make that hole a little bigger. Let's make sure first. Well, actually, that's good. All right, I think I want to just open that up a little more. Let's see. So I do need to be able to get kind of to the face of the fiber optic cable that will be sitting in the opening. I think that is pretty darn close. Now, actually, that opening is not quite the 3mm that we want. We actually need it to be this size. So I'm going to try. See if I can just do. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that by hand. Maybe. Yeah, sure. Didn't have to go too far. That's the size. Let's see. There's no. There we go. I think. It's those openings right there. Through to the inside. Right there. All right, so hopefully that'll actually allow me to set up an LED and a couple pieces of fiber optic, or maybe 3 pieces of fiber optic. I'm not sure, but it's open. All right, now we got to get this eyeball open. All right, I think that's centered. Let's start with something a little smaller. It's pretty good. And I think move it over just. No, that one doesn't have a point. Okay, now let's see. Let's try this one. There we go. Through, centered, happy. Right now, depending on how it all works out, we have a little piece of fiber sitting in the opening, and then there's a little chip LED right on the back pointing directly out the opening. That will be the easiest way for that one. And then I don't have to worry about trying to actually feed fiber optic all the way through to the inside of the cavity. That would be really challenging. So this one probably have 2 different LEDs, maybe even 3. This one may be big enough to just have one all the way out to the end to kind of give me the lens on it. And then the other 2 will have, at least I believe, pieces of fiber optic that come through to the inside and get their own little LED. These two divots right here, though, indicate where the wall of the back's going to be. So I do have a limit as to how far I can go, but that should give me plenty of space. All right, so more holes cut in the carapace. I think actually that's all the holes we're going to cut. It should be all the holes we're going to cut.